Would you welcome, please, James Schnepf.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Schnepf, and I photograph people. Throughout my career, my forte has always been photographing people in their environment, and I've got to say without hesitation, I've not found a more fascinating and passionate community of people and a better stage to photograph on than the cast of characters and the architecture that make up my new book, Palm Springs Modern Living, which just recently came out through Gibb Smith Publishing. Thanks so much. Thanks for coming out this afternoon to hear about the making of my Palm Springs project, of which this book is a major part of. Over the course of the next hour, some of the things we'll talk about will be who am I and where the heck did I come from? So, 2010, I came face to face with this place. Had a realtor show me some places. He took me to Sandpiper, fell in love with it, and that's where the story of the Palm Springs project really starts to take root. I began to photograph this area, but I really thought, you know what, there's something missing. Where are the people? Because without people, there's no architecture, right? So, being a people photographer, I wanted to go after that angle. I was curious as hell as to who was living in all of these different homes I started to see. So, these great facades, I wanted to get behind. Everybody said that the living really happens behind the place, you know, and that's where the views are, that's where the pool is. So at this point, I wanted to get to work and meet these people that live behind these amazing, mysterious facades that were so new. So let's meet some of the people right now, and I'll try to give you some background. The Gans, Joan and Gary Gann. Musicians from Chicago, and they play so often now at the Purple Room. I'm sure many of you know them, and they're just a blast. And they come out here and they live life to the fullest. So it was really enjoying to work with them and the great old golf is such a big part of the desert experience. I knew I had to include it somehow. One of my contacts I'd made from my growing network of friends, Jim out at Marrakesh Country Club in Palm Desert, he suggested I come out on a Thursday just to hang out and look around a little bit. When I did, he also happened to mention to me that on Thursdays at 11, there's a putting contest from 11 to 12, and I should check it out because all the ladies come out and they're pink and they have little aprons on with their scorecard and their pencil and their golf ball. So I did, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I got up on top. This could be the quote of the book, Mr. Ember. This could be it. I absolutely love this quote. Who wouldn't want to meet this gentleman? Robert's been doing Palm Springs Modern Tours for years, and just the best guy, and I love this line. So here's Robert at City Hall. I collaborate with Gene. Gene's been out here since the 50s, and I met Gene, I'll do this briefly, I met Gene at an art gallery about 3 years ago. She was curating a show of Albert Frey photography, and I love Albert Frey's work, and when I saw him connected with photography, which I had no idea of at the time, I thought, I've got to go to the show. Well, I went there, and there was this cute little lady sitting at a desk with some posters that she was signing, and I saw her and I thought, man, I've got to meet this lady. So I did, and on a later trip we connected, and I found out more about her. She's a very spiritual person. She's taught yoga here since the 50s. Too many stories to even start with. But anyway, I knew I wanted to photograph her in something related to yoga. So not far from her home, I found this mountainside location. And I picked her up at 4:30 in the morning. Imagine this, to be there before the sun came out. Imagine me pulling up my car to the front gate of the condo development. It's dark out, it's black. I've got my headlights on, and this little lady comes out in this outfit into my headlights, and I thought, this is absolutely precious. I couldn't have planned this better. So that's the first photograph we made. The second, I guess the last three remaining architects of mid-century architecture that are still with us. The first one being William Kreisel, who wrote the foreword for my book as well. I've gotten to know Mr. Kreisel over the course of the last 3 or so years, and just a wonderful guy. Serendipity struck here. We finished the shoot up, and Mr. Ember here was coming around the bend. He's up top in the hat in the double-decker tour bus, and when I saw that, I had my camera ready because then Mr. Ember called Bill's attention. Everybody started waving. Bill turned around to wave, and I just got low and made this photograph. And when Bill saw the layouts for my book, and saw his foreword that he wrote and saw that this photograph was used, this is what he emailed me and said. Don Wexler. And again, it was such a pleasure meeting another one of the iconic architects. I met Mr. Wexler through his son, Gary, and I'll mention right now, too, that Gary's a big part of this book. Gary's a really great graphic designer in Palm Springs, and he did the book. Gary brought his dad down over to the Merrill Lynch building. Gary thought it'd be a great place to photograph because he's not associated with that building a lot. So, and I know he is more and more now, but at this point, 2 years ago, he wasn't. So we made a photograph there here. We're done with the shoot, and I noticed Don walked over to look in the windows to see what the inside of the house was looking like. And at that moment, Gary happened to be walking around the side of the pool. So we've titled this image, Looking for Gary. Hugh Captor. Hugh Captor I talked to on the phone initially for about an hour, and he gave me his whole life story. And so giving with his time, and we arranged a time when I was coming back to the desert to go around and look at his work. And he spent 4 hours with me in his vehicle, driving me all around the city to see everything that he'd done. And I thought, man, this is really special. So we looked at the Palm Springs Golf Course Clubhouse. That's what this is right here. And that's where we, after scouting one day and coming back to shoot the next day, this is where we started our photo shoot. Now on that scout day, we were driving around the last place on the tour. He said, you know, let's stop by my family home. I haven't been there in 20 years, but I kind of want to see it. And he hadn't been back to his family home from 1957. Since 1990. We knocked on the door, the homeowners opened it up, the guy's eyes bugged right out of his head and said, Hugh Captor. So he invited us in, and when we got in, he said, you know, I want to show you something. Back in the early 60s, I built these benches up on top of the garage, and it was a place for me to get away. He was going through some stressful things back then, and he said he would go up on the roof, and he would just have a glass of wine, look off at the mountains, and so that's what we did that day. We went up the ladder and made that photograph and made this photograph. Now this isn't about architecture. This is a moment with a person that was really special. And our hearts go out to Hugh right now with the passing of his dear wife, Helen. Philip K. Smith. Yes. Bravo. A nice podium too, by the way. So at the time, Philip's studio was out in Indio, and we just had some phone conversations back and forth. I really didn't have the opportunity to go out and see his space and really scout it like I did most of the photographs in the book. So I raced out to Indio on what had to be the windiest day of the year. I'd never experienced. Wondering if there's anything we can do with that wind to make a portrait. So we went outside. This is the Idris house up in Little Tuscany, owned by J.R. Roberts. Just for the record, there were probably about 15 images that were submitted between Gary and I to the publisher for cover possibilities. This was just one of 57 shoots, basically, that I ended up doing. And it was a sunrise shoot, and I kept finding that shooting either at sunrise or pre-sunrise was working out best for the photographs that I wanted to make. Jonathan and Trina, the first thing I saw were Jonathan's glasses. And I thought somehow those have to be featured in some way. So this was a solution to that thought right here. This is a photograph of Catherine on the porch of this place. And, you know, you look at the landscaping outside, and, you know, some of you may know where this is going and some may not. But anyway, I did get clearance on this. Catherine and I talked about it, and we did this. Julius Julius Schulman made this photograph of Grace Miller back in the late 30s, and Catherine got to know Julius Schulman very well, I guess, in the last few years of his life, and he'd come over and tell her stories. And Catherine told me that Julius wanted to make this photograph, but he just never did. It just never happened. Second generation, Brian McGuire. This is a wonderful home, and you should know that it's the first mid-century structure in Palm Springs to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and he said that he did that as his gift to Don Wexler, which I thought was precious. This house is the Marion Tool House in Palm Desert by Rudolf Schindler from the late 47, I believe it is, right around 47. Not many people know about this. I'm not sure many people have seen it. My sources, Jim and Karen, a couple of years ago, introduced me to the owner, Doug Kopp, and his daughter, Kim. And I went over and spent a lot of time at the Schindler house. And I again, scouted, realized I wanted to shoot it at dusk, and I wanted to get this reflective angle. So what I had to do in this case is put my camera tripod into the pool and literally have the body of the camera about an inch off the water, and then let it sit for about a half hour so every ripple was gone. And then we just waited it out until the light was just right, and we made this portrait of Doug sitting outside, and Kim is inside the house looking out at him. Although I began the project for selfish reasons, I guess you could say, to find out for myself who and what makes this place tick, I could not be happier to share my vision of this rich place I've grown to love. And to top that off, after doing a subject head count in the book recently, I am so very privileged to have made 83 new friends in the process. And it just doesn't get any better than that.